Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, for yet another episode of Fighting Fantasy Frolics and Fun as we go into the exciting, mysterious, and dangerous and puzzling world of Creature of Havoc in the mines of Jaradan Amar. So, last time I ended up finding two dead ends in my game. Now, after looking at my map, and also there was somebody commenting that, and this reminded me something I have heard of before, there is actually possibly an error in this book. When you find the dull amulet that showed you the location to a secret room where you find a piece of plate armor that will help you in your quest, that amulet is also supposed to show you a secret passage in one of the dead ends. And it was the one where I thought this would have to be it when I was playing last time. And and the reason, of course, really the paragraph that would lead you to that secret passage should have started with the same words that were used for the other one. What I think happened is that possibly when Steve Jackson wrote the book the first time, he at some point changed the words that would trigger the possibility of there being a secret passage, or that where you had that clue to a secret passage that means you could then add or subtract 20 from the paragraph you were on to find a secret passage. But he forgot to do it for both locations. Maybe there are 3 locations, I don't know, but he forgot to do it for at least one of them. So and that may have caused the problem. Hang on, I just have to check something now because it looks like I had an alarm from yesterday that wasn't supposed to be on anymore. And also I should put my phone on silent. There we go. So, and therefore, if you just play the game normally, you wouldn't get anywhere. You would always end up at a dead end. Now, this error was corrected in the Wizard edition from 2002. But in the Scholastic edition, there is a Scholastic edition, I think, yes, it is back in again because they wouldn't have had access to the editorial decisions. They may not even have known about the editorial decisions made by Wizard. And of course, the knowledge of this particular error would have been something that was part of the Fighting Fantasy fandom, really. And I can actually imagine how Scholastic are not part of Fighting Fantasy fandom because they don't seem to pay attention to it. Anyway, so this time I know what I'm going to do. So basically what I've decided to do now is to not start from the beginning again today. I'm going to fast forward quite a bit because I've seen all the early bits. And I'm just going to run you sort of through when I start out, just point out on the map where I've been and what I've done, just as a starting point. And because the thing is, the enjoyment for me of this game and these game books is to solve the puzzle of finding the right path through. Once you've found the right path through, all that remains, if you fail, is rolling dice. And so once you know exactly how to get through, and the only thing that stands between you and victory is rolling dice, it's turned into a dice rolling game, and you might just roll the dice over and over and over again until you get the right numbers in the right order, and then you win. So at the point where I know exactly where to go and what to do, the the enjoyment of it is sort of starting to wane a little bit. So, which means that I don't technically feel I need to win the book in the sense that I actually go through from the beginning to the end, rolling all the dice that I need to win, and then that's it. I'd rather stop at that point if I feel I'm not enjoying rolling the dice. So that said, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to, as usual, run through my background, or should I? It's been played so many times now. Let's skip the background today. If you want to see, there is in the beginning of Creature of Havoc, there is a 20-page, yes, not just 2 pages like it usually is. There are 20 whole pages of background stories. Stories that may or may not be relevant to what's going on in the game book. So it tells you of it's the tales of Trolltooth Pass in the sort of embryonic form of what eventually turned into a novel, and it tells you of the women of Bree. It tells you of the elves and how the girl selected to be the elf queen gives birth to vapors of existence, because of the presence of gods. It tells you of Jaradan Ma, one of the wizards that, together with Zagor and what's the other one's name, are sort of the demonic three, the most evil wizards in the land or in the world or in the universe, possibly. And it tells you of how he is doing some of the same experiments as the women of Bree, of course, who were witches, to create super creatures as sort of hybrid creatures in different crossings between different beasts and men. And in this book, you don't know who you are, what you are, where you are, what you're doing, why you're there, etc., etc. And that is because it seems that you are a result of one of these experiments, known as Maranga. And the experiments are called Maranga. The form of magic practice is called Maranga. And but you do have some residual memories, which probably stems from whatever creatures you were before you became this new hybrid. And you seem to be quite a successful hybrid, a very strong, fierce, and dangerous hybrid. And with great fighting prowess and a taste for hobbits. So in this book, it seems that you are on a quest, but of course you don't know what it is, and it is to first find the vapors that somebody is trying to. Jared and Mar has stolen from the elves, and different adventurers are in this mine trying to steal them back. But at least 2 of the vapors will be useful to you, because the vapors. Let's talk about the vapors, since I'm skipping the background now. So when the new elf queen sort of gives birth to this was known as vapors, like a gaseous being that is formed by the presence of certain divinities and gods at the birth. And so instead of getting an elf baby, she's getting a sort of a divine spirit being baby. Usually there's only one god present at this ritual, but in this case, the elf maiden was so beautiful that she got 3 gods to show up at this event, and so she gave birth to 3 vapors, and those were the vapors of reason, language, and magic. So, and these, of course, are super powerful things, these vapors that are collected in a bottle, and they can be used to protect or to help the elves once in the lifetime of this elf queen. And Jaradan Ma, being an evil wizard, hearing about this, and also the location of the secret elf village being revealed inadvertently by someone, he realizes that if he can get hold of the vapor of magic, he would not just be the powerful evil wizard he is now, he would be the most powerful evil wizard in all of history. Who wouldn't want that? So he goes about stealing the vapors, which he does, but he doesn't know how to use them. He doesn't know enough about them, and of course he doesn't want to waste them, so he keeps them in his mine, which of course he has to make money, as you do for all your evil scheming. And gold mine, I think. Yeah, because they called Yellowstone mines, possibly. I'm not sure now. I can't remember for sure. It's been a while since I read the introduction myself. So he steals the vapors, and a lot of adventurers now try to steal them back. So in these mines, there would be parties of adventurers with mages and paladins and all those things, all your classical D&D parties trying to steal the vapors back. And the thing is that when you awake as a creature, you don't know what people are saying, you don't know where you're going because you're just acting on instinct. And at some point in the beginning of the book, you come across a party of adventurers who are already dead. And they have in their possession a bottle that contains the first vapor. This is my theory. This seems to make sense anyway. The book does say that some of the information in the introduction can be misleading, but I'm quite sure that the first vapor, the first thing you find there in that bottle that affects you directly, is the vapor of reason, and that gives you free will, or certainly to some extent, allowing you to make your own choices. Before that, when you were on instead of turn left, go to this paragraph, turn right, go to that paragraph, what you were given was turning left is that way, turning right is that way, but roll a die and then you find out where you go. So once you get that first vapor of reason, then you are able to make your own choices. Now, you still don't understand what people are saying. It's all just gibberish, and it's written as gibberish as well, with all too many consonants, but that's a different story. And so your next thing you need to find is the vapor of language, of course. So what I'm going to do now is to say that I've done the first bit of the book. So I've been through the first part of the book where you don't have free will, and then you get to the point where you find the first vapor and you can make your own choices. Okay, so that's fine. Also, there is in the beginning of the book, there's a sort of possibly a kind of a map or some kind of scroll or some kind of, it's on a piece of leather that you don't understand. It says some words on it, and that's an item you have that I still haven't found out exactly what to do with. But I'll just make a note of that just right away so I don't forget. So a piece of leather, and then you get free will, and then you get to a point, and I think I'll start us there, where you find a pendant that is then hugely important item. You cannot get anywhere without that pendant. That's the one that reveals the secret entrances and exits and passages that you need in order to get anywhere further in this book than what I was last time. Last time I didn't pick it up because I wanted to try something different, and so I picked up the bracelets instead. That is also an option in the same place. So I'm going to start today at paragraph 281, which is just as you're making that choice what to pick up. Okay, so right, just one more. No, I'll just do everything else now as I get down on my desk and get started. So let's get started with playing Creature of Havoc for the 6th time. Is it? I've lost count. This is going to be a tricky one anyway. So yeah, okay, let's get started. Right, here we are on my desk with my supplies ready to go. Let's see, I'll just get a blank character sheet as well. So we can do our character, skill, 11, stamina, 23, and luck 12. That is pretty good rolling there. Although, of course, as I said, to me it's a puzzle of finding the path through rather than the rolling of the dice, and so the stats don't technically matter as much, although it is fun to actually beat the book fair and square with the abilities you have. So as I said, I'm going to start a little bit into it now. So that means that I will have found the piece of leather in the very beginning. That is the very, very beginning. And there's a reference page 330. Oh, paragraph 337 to look at it, and it is just gibberish. So, but this says Svimd Fibrt up etc. So it's but this, the fact that this is supposed to be a clue and something important indicates to me maybe at some point when we get the vapor of language, there is something in that too that will tell us how to decipher some of this in a way that is beneficial to us. And then I will start. I'm just going to skip the battle, actually. I'm just going to start where you have killed a party of adventurers just before you find the amulet. So I'm going to go to paragraph 281. Well, I forgot to introduce all my other supplies. I've got my maps, I got my pen, pencils, pen, dice, and most importantly, of course, a cup of tea. So you poke around the bodies of the 3 dead ruffians. Something shining on the wrist of the 3rd adventurer catches your attention. Clumsily, you rip at the clothing of all 3, eventually exposing 3 objects of interest. The leading adventurer wore around his neck a pendant made of a dull, dark metal on a leather thong. The 3rd adventurer wore 2 wrist bracelets of a shining yellow metal. The other carried a pouch containing 12 small flat discs of a shiny metal. Which of these is of the most interest to you? And that is, of course, going to be the dull metal pendant. This is the most pivotal item in the early part of the book. So we are going to paragraph 306. I'm just going to put it on my character sheet right away. Pendant. Although there is some information in the next paragraph about how it works. So, you are fascinated by the ugly pendant. You carefully hook the leather thong with a claw and pull it free of the adventurer's head. You turn it over in your hand and can see that it is circular, with a dull blue stone set in the center. You stare at the pendant for some time, wondering what to do with it. Then you remember how the adventurer wore it. You are just able to squeeze it over your head, and you carry the pendant proudly around your neck. The pendant has a secret, which will be revealed in due course. If you reach a reference which begins, "You cannot see a thing." Deduct 20 from the reference number you are on at the time and turn to this new reference. Now, so this is where there is a possibility now that there are places where you cannot see a thing is not part of the text, and yet you still have to use this. So, pendant minus 20, you cannot see a thing. Okay, now turn to 115. Before you finally leave the adventurers, you may decide to feed on them. If you do, you gain 4 stamina points. Then you continue. All is silent as you walk carefully along the passage. Eventually, your ears pick up the sound of running water, and the air becomes moist and cool. The sensation would be quite refreshing if it were not for an unpleasant smell, which gets stronger as the sound of the water becomes louder. Soon you find yourself on the ledge in the face of a rocky cliff. Looking out, you can see you are high over a vast cavern through which a river flows. Leading down from your ledge into the center of the cavern is a flight of rough-cut stairs. This precarious staircase spans the river and is the only way onwards, but the thought of descending the stairs is not one which fills you with enthusiasm. The narrow steps have been made for human-sized feet, and your large pads will make your descent awkward. The smell, which was unpleasant before, is now horrendous and seems to be coming from the river itself. Its waters are murky brown, and the smell of excrement and decay is overpowering. Nevertheless, your only way on is downwards, so down you must go. Test your luck. So, luck 12. I'm not going to roll that. I'm just going to reduce it to 11, and that is successful. And I go to 166, and this is where we also turn over the page to this page. There we are. The descent is dangerous, and several times you lose your footing and stumble on the slippery steps, but your luck holds out and you finally arrive at the foot of the staircase. The stench of the river is especially foul to your sensitive nostrils, and your eyes search desperately for a way out of the cavern. You discover two openings in the rock face ahead of you. One leads to the west and the other to the north. Will you continue north or turn west? So, let's have a little look at our map now. North or west, does it make a difference? Now, the thing is that I do want to go where I can find something with my pendant, which is very close by. So I want to go north, 358. But that is therefore most likely the correct way to go. A passage leads from the opening into the rock face, and you follow it. But you find that as you travel north, the light fades rapidly. There are no glowstones in this passage, and you must progress carefully, steadying yourself by running your hands along both walls. The ground underfoot is rocky, and several times you stub your toes painfully on protruding stones. Later, you can no longer touch both walls at once. Although you are unable to see anything, you sense that you are entering a large chamber. Turn to 257. And I hope the light now, this sunlight is quite bright today, as you can see on my face here. And that is with the blinds down, by the way, or the blinds closed. I just have Venetian blinds, it's not ideal. But I hope it doesn't mess up my green screen. Of course, I think I'll be fine. The green screen, yeah, by the way, last time, of course, I told you that I was trying the green screen for the first time, and it is working really well, and I've found out how to do it in a way that seems to work the easiest way to do it and the easiest way to make it work every time. So I'm going to keep using it. Has some nice advantages. Right. You cannot see a thing, and that is, of course, our keyword now. You cannot see a thing. Because that's what it said for the pendant. You cannot see a thing, you subtract 20 from the number and you go to 237. As you shuffle around the wall of the cavern, you suddenly notice a strange sensation coming from your neck. The pendant you picked up is beginning to vibrate slightly and is giving out a faint hum. But when you continue around the wall, the vibration fades until the pendant is once more still. You puzzle over this for a few moments and step back to where you were before. Again, the vibrations and humming come from the pendant, and you pause to look at what is happening. The dull blue stone set in its center is beginning to glow, and you watch in amazement as its color changes from blue to a living red, as though a fire were burning inside it. An instant later, a single beam of red light shoots from the stone to a point on the wall in front of you. Following its direction, you can see what seems to be a piece of rock hanging in mid-air. As if ordered by the pendant, you grasp the rock and pull. It is not hanging in mid-air, but is attached to a rope, and your tug is answered by a rumble in the rock in front of you. A doorway is opening. The pendant you have found is, in fact, a magic talisman, which has a special power. It is able to detect hidden doorways. In future, it will warn you of the presence of secret doors, but you will have to watch for the warning signs. If you reach a reference which begins to find yourself, okay, yes. So it is actually correct then. It's not a bug. The thing is that, yes. Okay, I know what happened now. There was a sound just now, as if something was sliding down the roof. And it sounds like there's something that shouldn't be sliding down the roof. I'll have to check that out later. Okay. I don't know if you heard that on the recording. Right, that doesn't sound, it sounds like a thing that slid down and not a bird or anything else. Okay. Right. So the thing is that, so what happens in this book is it's therefore not an error, actually, because the thing is that it is possible to get to the other place where you're supposed to use the pendant, where it says you find yourself ... But that means, and I think this was intentional in that case, so that you're not supposed to find that bit until you found this. It is a string of clues. So I think that perhaps the correction that Wizard made may have been wrong. So now I'm looking for you find yourself, which is the text at the beginning of the paragraph where I think that I'm supposed to find a secret passage. So we'll get to that soon. You find yourself, then you may look for a secret passage using Talisman's help at 20 to the reference, so that is plus 20 now. You are on at the time and turn to this new reference. If a secret door is present, the new reference will make sense and the talisman will show you its secret. If the new reference makes no sense and there is no secret door. So, and then I get 1 luck point, which is fine. So basically that means that you have to do these in order. You can't just go to the other one and expect to find a secret passage if you hadn't found this one first, which means that this is the only correct way through this book. And we'll double check that when we get to it. But it seems to me now that the so-called error is actually not an error at all. Unless there is something else. Okay, so you may now either enter the secret door you have just found. Yes, I will. You crouch low and squeeze through the narrow gap. As you pass through the doorway, a single glowstone flicks on to reveal the contents of the small chamber which you are now standing in. The room is completely bare except for a large chest against one of the walls. You step over and examine the chest. You push it, shove it, and bash it, trying to break it open. Sounds a bit like Bob Ross there. Yeah, you push, you shove, and you bash it. Trying to break it open. Finally, a lucky push opens the lid. Inside, you find 2 mysterious objects. The first is a large circular plate made of strong metal. It has a sharp spike which protrudes from the center on one side and 2 leather straps on the other. On the same side as the straps is attached a leather pouch, which may be useful for carrying things. The other object is a piece of rough colored rock about the size of your forearm. One end is wide and the other is much narrower. It is a dull green color and glistens faintly in the light. But it appears very brittle. It may make a useful weapon gripped by the tapered end, but it would no doubt not last long in battle. I'm wondering about this green spike thing. Is this a special magical or something with some special properties that will make it easier to defeat a certain foe? For instance, someone who generally cannot be killed, like Jared Ma? I'm just wondering. You may take one of these items with you. Any metallic discs may be placed in the pouch on the plate if you choose this object. If you choose the plate, turn to 197. If you choose the rock, turn to 110. Right. I'm going to go with the plate anyway. Just I know I'm going to get benefit out of that. And if it turns out that the other item is essential, I'm not sure it is. I think it's optional in this case. When strapped to your arm, this plate will make a useful shield in battle. While using the shield, you may add 1 point to your skill. Right, so that's 12. And take note, it does not increase initial skill. It adds 2 skill because you're using it. It's a bonus. So you can't. If I had 12 skill now, my fighting skill would now be 13 because when I'm using this, that's what's intended. Right. In addition, any more metallic discs of gold and silver may be carried in the pouch on the back. Finally, the spike on the front will allow you to break down doors more easily. If you are told to lose 1 stamina point when attempting to break down a door, you may ignore this penalty. If the damage is more severe, then even your shield will not help you. Okay, so if it's 1, okay, so it's a shield +1 and also 1 star break door, and let's see, no 1 star break door damage. And my writing feels horrible today. Why am I writing so bad today? Okay, must be the weather. It's quite warm. It's not supposed to be this warm in the middle of September, but it feels a bit summery even. Right, now leave the chamber and turn to 257 to continue. So 257, that's where I went off, where I couldn't see a thing. And so your feet shuffle noisily through the straw which covers the floor. So that is actually shield +1. Okay. Your feet shuffle noisily through the straw which covers the floor as you grope around the walls for a way out. If this cavern is the lair of another creature, then you may well be walking straight towards it. But you hear no sounds other than your own, and eventually you reach a hole in the rock, which is large enough for you to walk through and leads to a passageway. You continue slowly along the passage, still groping your way, but you stop when a blue light flicks on in front of you. So the glowstones are back. And turn away until your eyes become... the welcome hue of a glowstone makes you blink, and turn away until your eyes become accustomed to the light. When you are finally able to take in your surroundings, you find that you are at a junction where you may turn either to the east or the west. So what have I done before? I have east. It says do not go east, and so I will go west in that case. 309. The passage continues west, then turns sharply to the right. A few paces along the corridor, you reach a junction where you can go either west or north. And let's see, what have we here? Okay, I'm just going to go north, I think. The passage runs straight ahead until you reach a junction where you may continue north or turn east. Alternatively, you may return to the previous junction and turn west. So let's see, 371, okay. I'm going to continue, I'm going to turn 144. I'm going to go east, I think. The passage runs straight ahead until you reach a solid wooden door. It is locked and looks much too sturdy for you to break down. But in the center of the door is a huge metal plate with a heavy ball pivoted above it. Would you use the ball to hit the plate to attract the attention of whoever is inside, or will you return to the junction and take the passage to the north? Let's see. What did I do before? 204, 144, or 435. If I go there, I got over there. If I go up here, there is a chance of finding something. I'm going to do knock on the door. The heavy knocker booms loudly on the metal plate. A grunting noise comes from behind the door, and you can hear feet shuffling as some sort of creature responds to your knock, and that's this gentleman over here. The door slowly creaks open and a long snout appears. Small pig-like eyes peer out at you from behind the single tusk which stands in the middle of the rhino man's face. The door opens wider and you can see the creature's stout, heavily armed torso and legs. It speaks to you. I'm not going to do the gibberish there because it's hard to pronounce and my throat is a little bit dry. He is closing the door without letting you in. Will you shove the door and step in to attack, or leave, return to the junction and take the northern passage? I'm going to attack. I'm going to barge my way through. 357. You kick the door back and slash out at the rhino man. You must resolve this battle. So we have I am at 12.23. He has 8, 9. I've got a 4 skill point advantage. He rolls 8. I roll 6. That is a draw. He rolls 8. I roll 8. So I hit him. He rolls 9. I roll 2. But I roll doubles. And this is our special ability, of course. When you roll doubles in battle, you instantly win the battle. Because you just used your big claws and you hit something vital. There we are. If you defeat the creature, you may search the guard room. As the Rhino Man was about the same size as you, you may wish to take something from the room. If you take a dusty brown sack, turn to 250. If you take a metal breastplate, turn to 415. Now, I was thinking about the breastplate. I don't know anything about the sack, but I'm going to do the breastplate. You fumble about with the breastplate and eventually it slips over your shoulder and stays in place. It will be a useful defensive piece, and while you are wearing it, you may add 2 points to your attack strength during each attack round. But it does not fit perfectly and it makes moving your arms awkward. While you are wearing it, you must deduct 1 point from your skill score. You may now leave the guard room by turning to 394. So we have... So that means we got 14. So basically we are sort of 14, 11, I guess, based on how this thing is written. So 14 in battle, 11 otherwise. Going by the letter of this, although technically I suppose I'm going to go with what's logical and do 10 when I'm not in battle, because I'm not using the shield either to help me be agile when I'm not in battle. And this will make me more clumsy when not in battle. So I've got 14 attack score and attack ability, attack strength plus die roll, and I have 10, which is my normal skill for other things like walking downstairs or whatever. Okay, I need to restart my camera. Right. So we were at, go to 394, yes. Although there are 3 doors leading from the guard room, you ignore the one to the south. Will you leave either the door in the north wall or the door in the west wall? So, I've never tried the west wall one. Oh, by the way, there's just one thing I have to check now. Yeah, okay. I never tried going west. I'll try going west, but I'll save my game first, just in case. 116. The door leads to a passage which takes you west until you reach a T-junction where you decide to turn north. Turn to 144, and I'm wondering, is that somewhere that is on my... It is somewhere on my... map already. Let's see. So we have 144. There we are. The passage twists and turns until it leads you into a wide cavern. You pause to survey the way ahead. There are no creatures to be seen, and all is still except for dull humming, which is forming an almost unnoticeable background noise. The wall to the left is riddled with large holes like a huge honeycomb, and many of the holes are lit with a yellow glow. I remember this one from last time where I got really lucky with my dice rolls. In the center of the cavern, a few steps off the path, is what seems to be a small pool of shimmering liquid. Do you want to pass through this chamber as quickly as possible? Yes, please. You take the path carefully through the cavern so as to avoid any danger. The path leads out through a narrow archway into a passage which you follow east until you reach a junction where a side passage leads southwards. Turn to 298, and this is where I'm going back to, okay, I'm there. Okay, 298. Oh, nice picture. Oh, 298. You decide to choose the Eastwood Passage, and you follow it to a sharp bend to the right. Almost immediately after the bend, you find yourself at the foot of a staircase, and you climb the stairs carefully. Then a corridor leads straight ahead southwards until you reach a T-junction where you may turn either east or west. So this is east or west. Now we are back over here on my map, so we've got to go up, down, up and down on my map there. Yes, it's nice. And you may turn either. Oh, hang on. Oh, there's 401. Okay, no, so that's not quite there. So 401 west is where I don't want to go because that is a dead end. And then I want to go east, which is down here. Okay, so this is. So yes, I'm going up there, and then I went down there on my map and up there on my map, and then I'm going down there again. I'm not going up there because that is a dead end. And we don't like the dead ends. Yeah, there are lots of them. Okay, so. But I will get to the other ones soon where I know that's not going to be a completely dead end. The rocky corridor continues for some time and then turns sharply southwards. Ahead of you at the end of the passage is a sturdy wooden door. To your left is another door. Will you try the door straight ahead or the door to your left? And we have... let's see, ahead... I don't need to go into the door there because all I will get in there is combat and 4 stamina. Last time I lost more than 4 stamina in there, so it's not worth the risk. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to 15. Just occurred to me I need to double check that I am indeed in focus. It looks good, actually. The thing is that I'm checking focus now on my iPad screen, and of course it doesn't give you enough resolution to actually judge focus precisely. But what it does is, if you get the correct focus, you tend to get some kind of moire effect, which does help to spot whether it's all right or not. It has to help in spotting. Right, so we have... I'm going... Where am I now? Ahead, yes. All is silent as you enter. The room is large with a high ceiling, and a musty smell permeates the air. There are 4 doors leading from the room, one in each wall. A long table stands in the middle of the room, and on it is a short stick with a metal head lying next to some small spikes. A couple of planks of wood are resting against the table. This is evidently a workroom of some sort. In one corner of the room, you find the products of the work carried on here. Excuse me. 2 tall and thin wooden boxes, almost as tall as you are leaning against the wall. Just above floor level, which is wide enough to fit one of the boxes through. Just above floor level, which is wide enough to fit one of the boxes through. You puzzle over this for some time. What do you want to do? Have a look inside the boxes, investigate the hole in the wall, or ignore what you see. I'm just going to ignore it now because I can't see... I mean, if you open the box, you get cursed. That's a bad thing. If you look at the hole, you can smell it, and you can push the boxes through, and it doesn't seem to have an effect. If it turns out later that it does have an effect to do any of those things that is important to winning the game, then I will maybe say that I had done it, because I know that it can be done. I don't know where to do it, so I will already have solved that bit of the puzzle if it turns out that I need to do it. So 436. You have 4 doors to choose from. So this is the one where the only way out is east, I believe. So all the other ones just lead you back to east. The passage leads east. A short distance ahead, you arrive at a rocky bridge across a deep chasm. I remember, of course, when I was young and I read these books the first time, I would have thought it was called a chasm, like the Chasms of Malice, of course, one of the books. And apparently this is quite a common thing to think because it is written chasm, isn't it? If you wanted it to be pronounced chasm, why on earth did you write it with a CH? So, yeah. So I believe that even native speakers, if you don't know the word and you come across it for the first time, you would think it was called chasm. Anyway, chasm, that's what it's supposed to be. Far below you can hear the sloshing of a slow-moving river, and you step up to the edge of the bridge to get a better look. A disgusting smell is coming up from the river, and as this hits your nostrils, you stagger a few paces backwards. But this is the only way on. The bridge is narrow and wet from the moisture in the air. No doubt it is slippery too. Nevertheless, you have no choice. You hold your breath and step on to the bridge. But halfway across, you lose your footing on the slippery bridge. Test your luck. And of course, my luck is 12, which means I don't technically need to roll for it again, which means I can just quietly reduce it to 11 and move on. If you are lucky, turn to 457. Of course, if you are unlucky, you fall down into the river and you die an absolutely horrendous and stinky death. You regain your footing and hurry across the bridge to the other side. Shaken by your near accident, you continue until you arrive at a side passage on the right. You do not like the look of the side passage, so you continue eastwards. Turn to 122. Now this is a bit weird because now it's actually mixing up left, right with east and west. So is the one on the right to the east or the west or the north or the south? We don't know. But I continue eastwards anyway. Turn to 122. You follow the passage eastwards, peering ahead as the glowstones flick on to light your way. Eventually you arrive at 2 doors and you listen for any clues as to what may be beyond. No noise comes from behind the door in the north wall, but there are definite sounds coming from behind the door in the east wall. A heavy breathing is unmistakable and is interrupted by loud snorts. This sounds ominous. If you wish to try the door in the north wall, turn to 154. If instead you decide to charge a door in the east wall, turn to 263. Now what is going on here? This is... I still haven't found if there's anything in this bit that is actually beneficial to me, or if I just should be going on. So I'm going to just go to the what I used to think were dead ends, 154. The door is locked. It may be possible to break it down, but it could damage your shoulder as the timbers are heavy. If you wish to try breaking the door, yeah, I think I'll just do that. 396. The door cracks as you charge it, and eventually you break into the room, but not before you take 1 stamina point of damage for your sore shoulder. And of course, this is where the shield helps me, because I've used the shield to bash down the door, and I don't take that 1 point of stamina damage. The room inside has no occupants. Instead, a single desk is surrounded on 3 sides by racks of parchments, each rolled up neatly and tied with string. A door in the east wall is half hidden behind the untidy racks. Do you want to head out through this door, or will you pick up a parchment to see what it says? Now, if you pick up a parchment, a sort of a demon appears, doesn't it? So I don't think that's wise. So I think I'll just going to go and leave this place. I can't imagine that fighting the demon will give me anything worthy of. Yeah, no. The door opens into a straight passage leading east, which you follow until you reach a dead end. You growl in frustration, and as if your voice had acted as some kind of trigger, you hear a click and a sliding sound. Part of the rock face slides aside and reveals another passage running north and south. You step through the secret doorway cautiously, wary of a trap. But when you are through, the door grinds shut again, but at the same time there is another sound which seems to be coming from above you. Just in time, you look up to see a heavy portcullis dropping from the roof towards you. You fling yourself forward, not an instant too soon. A heavy clang sounds behind you as the portcullis hits the ground. You escaped death by inches. Since you hurled yourself north, the way to the south is now sealed off by the portcullis, and you pick yourself up and set off north. Soon you reach a crossroads where you may turn east or west or continue northwards. So if you go in here and you don't know how to find the secret passage, you are actually just stuck there forever, which is kind of cool, actually, in a way. So this is where I turn over page again and where we get here. So now it is... I'm not going to go east because that's where you die if you don't have the bracelets. And of course, the bracelets are not helpful anywhere else, probably because it's the amulet that is really needed to get onwards in this game. So, and this bit here is, it says do not do that, which means that the correct way onwards must be up here. At number 20 is my theory. So, oh, hang on, just got a text, see if it's something important. Yeah, not really. Which means I want to go, well, north, I suppose. 443 is the shortest way to where I think. You follow the passage to the north until you reach a junction. To the left, you can see that the passage soon reaches a dead end. But on the ledge in the end wall is a large orb of clear stone. To the right, you can see that the passage disappears around a bend heading northwards. Will you turn left or right? And of course, turning left is you just get injured, so you don't want to do that. So I want to turn right and go to 81. The passage turns to the left and you follow it for some time until you feel that perhaps this corridor has no end. Eventually, you see a particularly dark area straight ahead. Will you investigate, or would you rather turn round and go back? If you'd rather go back, turn to 279. If you want to investigate, turn to 20. And of course, every time you find a dark area, it seems there are secret passages, aren't there? So you find yourself at the dead ends, of course. Now it says you find yourself. Now this indicates to me, actually, because the previous paragraph said almost exactly the same of the way ahead as the paragraph before the last time you used the amulet, which indicates to me that initially it may have been intended for both this paragraph and the other one before when you found the shield, that they were supposed to start with you cannot see a thing. It says there's darkness ahead. It's leading into that. But for some reason, and I think this may have been deliberate, Steve Jackson appears to have changed the wording to distinguish those two secret entrances from each other in an attempt to make sure that you cannot get to this one without having been to the other one. It is a deliberate change, and I know that because of what he said in the previous paragraph, because he didn't change the wording to reflect the fact that it actually isn't that dark after all. So now I know this book does not have an error, certainly not here. This is intended. Okay. You will have to retrace your steps, turn to 279. But I know that it says you find yourself at the dead end, and I can add 20 to this paragraph, which is paragraph 40. And I should find the way onwards. That's the theory. Yes, and of course he also changed the... and of course another reason he had to change it, or he didn't have to, you can't subtract 20 from 20, you get 0. So maybe he thought it was easier just to change the wording rather than to rejig the paragraph numbers, depending on how he did that. That's also a possibility, actually. There are actually two possibilities for how this came about. In any case, I quite like the idea that you have to go one place first and then the other. But the thing is, the amulet should really work both places, shouldn't it, when you think about it? So maybe it was an error, but it was one of narrative and not anything else. Anyway, the main thing is I managed to find a way through. So I am finding the secret way to paragraph 40, and it says, as you are about to turn to leave the dead end, the pendant around your neck suddenly starts to vibrate. Remembering what happened last time this occurred, yes, see, again, it references the last time, which means this is intended only to happen if you got the first one. Remembering what happened last time this occurred, you hold the talisman out towards the rock face. A low humming comes from the charm and its vibrating becomes more pronounced. Eventually, the blue stone set in its center begins to glow and a narrow beam of blue light illuminates a small catch in the rock. You release the catch and the rocky door rumbles aside to reveal a small room ahead in the rock. In the room is a long wooden box on a sturdy table. Around the room are a variety of objects, plates, candlesticks, and many other artifacts arranged on shelves and smaller tables. Leaning against the central table are two skeletons. One looks human, but the other looks decidedly non-human, having the jaws of some sort of creature of chaos. A musty smell comes from the room. It no doubt has not been visited for some time. Would you venture inside, or would you ignore the room and leave the area? So, ignoring the room and leaving the area brings us just back in the loop, which means that must be wrong, which means I want to move on and go to 296. It must be the only correct way forward. You step inside the room and look around. All sorts of carefully collected objects of value are in the room, and you pick some of these up to look more closely at them. Then the door slides shut with a rumble and leaves you in complete blackness. Relying on your talisman, you shuffle across. Oh. Is there another place? Where's this then? Well, that's kind of cool, though. This actually is a dead end. You step inside the room and look around. All sorts of carefully collected objects of value are in the room, and you pick some of these up to look more closely at them. Then the door slides shut with a rumble and leaves you in complete blackness. Relying on your talisman, you shuffle across to the area of the door and hold it towards the wall. But this time there is no reaction, no vibration, no blue light. There is equally little reaction from the other walls. It soon dawns on you why two long dead skeletons were leaning against a table. There is no escape from the tomb you are now in. The next unwitting visitor will find three skeletons in the room. Okay, so that is kind of cool. But that means that there must be something else. So what about... Let's have a look at... What other options are there now? Just double check now because I'm sort of running out of... Because this whole section then is a dead end in that case. But where did I get to this bit? 293. Hang on. 293, 293. Where do I get to 293? So maybe there is an error after all. It just that's not the one that is the error. But where on earth is this? 293? Can you remember seeing a 293 here somewhere? 293 leave. Ah. Okay. Okay, let's try this now. Okay, let's backtrack to 154. So that's where I opened. Okay, so back to where I bashed in the door and I didn't take damage. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this just before that bit. So the door is locked. It may be possible to break it down, but you could damage your shoulder as the timbers are heavy. If you wish to try breaking the door, turn to 396. If instead you would prefer to try the door in the east wall, turn to 263. The door shudders under your charge, but does not open. Lose one stamina point. Again, I don't have to because of my shield. You try again, and this time the bolt is torn from the frame. The door flies open and you step inside the room, or into the room rather, ready for the creature inside. The room itself has a door in each wall. Scattered around one corner is an untidy pile of bones. In another corner is a half-eaten human carcass. Standing over the carcass, and evidently annoyed that its meal has been disturbed, is a bulky creature with a hairy face, razor-sharp teeth, and wild eyes. As you enter, it turns to attack, and you must resolve your battle with a Manic Beast. Right, so we have the Manic Beast. And he has a 7, 8. I am currently at 14, 23. So I've got a 7 skill point advantage. He rolls 6. I roll 4. Okay, I'm hitting him once. He rolls 3. I roll 9 twice. He rolls 9. I roll 6 3 times. He rolls 8. I roll 5 4 times. And he is dead. Oh, hang on. The Manic Beast is so called for its tremendous bursts of rage. Each time you inflict a wound on the Manic Beast, its anger will rise for the next attack run. You must add 2 to the dice rolls when it rolls for attack strength. If you wound it again during this next attack run, it will retain the bonus for the next run, but if you do not, its temper returns to normal and the bonus is lost. I think I still beat it though, didn't I? I'm not going to do it again. Am I? Yeah, okay, I can do it again. So he rolls 8, I roll 9. So now, of course, he's got 5 difference. So he rolls 5, I roll 8, and he's dead. Okay, so either way, he is dead. He's dead and gone. Okay. 7, 8, yeah. Okay, so then we go to 209, and this must be the way out now because this is the only way left. You may, if you wish, regain your strength by waiting for a few moments in the room before continuing. You can pass the time by feasting on either of the dead creatures, which looks the tastiest. I'm going to ignore the food and leave the room. Okay, 293. Did I have not put this on my map. Hang on. Oh, yes, I have. Yes, 231. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to leave the room, 293. You leave the room through a door in the east wall. The door opens into a dingy corridor, which is quite short and ends at a wooden door. When you listen at the door, you can hear conversation rising and falling in pitch as if 2 or 3 creatures, or humans, were locked into a long discussion. This is your only way onwards. Will you try the door and attempt to creep slowly into the room? Or will you attempt to surprise whatever is inside by charging into the room with claws drawn? I'm just going to charge. You fling open the door and rush into the room, snarling viciously, ready to take on the creatures you heard inside. But the scene within is not what you expect. Turn to 161. Excuse me. The room is roughly circular with doors in the north, south, and west walls. Around the walls and in between the doors are dark arches, a total of 6, which are large enough for you to enter. But from your position, it is impossible to know how deep they are. The voices which you heard earlier have stopped, as if your entrance has surprised whoever or whatever was talking. There is no sign of any living creature in the room. You step into the center and you are startled when the door slams shut behind you. You must now decide what to do. So this is also what I thought was a dead end before, actually. Will you leave the room through one of the doors or stay to investigate the room further? So I'm going to leave. See if I can leave. Saving my game, by the way. Yeah. You may leave by one of the 3 doors leading from the room. Which will you choose? Okay, so we have. Just going to move this up here now. 3 doors. 300, 393, and 6. So that is north, west, or south. Right, so shall we do the south one first? 6? Yeah. The door opens and you find yourself in a corridor which heads south for a few paces and then turns to the west. Hang on, this actually looks a little bit familiar. Okay. Your claws extend themselves, ready for a sudden encounter. You follow the passageway around the corner. Eventually, you reach a point where the passage turns back southwards, but something on the rocky floor in front of you has attracted your attention. In the elbow of the bend is a large black circle which seems to shimmer in the blue light. Perhaps it is a pool of liquid, or maybe some dark metallic substance. As you are considering this, you hear a noise behind you, which may have been a quiet footstep. Is someone following you? You turn around but can see nothing. Now you must decide what to do. Would you investigate the shape on the floor? And this, it looks exactly like one I was killed by before, doesn't it? So I'm not going to do that. Or would you try to avoid the circle by walking around it? So got these options. I'm going to put them over. Well, I'm just going to put them over here. So 445, investigate, or 3 around. What about turning back and seeing what's behind me? That would make more sense too, wouldn't it? Yeah, because this is the end again. You step over to the right and give the circle a wide berth. Halfway round, your ears prick up. Another footstep. With claws at the ready, you turn to face your pursuer, but again there is no one there. The quick turn in a narrow space causes you to stumble momentarily. You quickly regain your balance, but not quickly enough. For as you put your foot out to steady yourself, you stepped on the edge of the black circle. Quick as a flash, the circle spread itself out and engulfed your foot, and now you realize the danger of the black mouth floor trap. As you stumble into the black hole, you find yourself falling over and over through a dark void until you lose consciousness. The real horror in store will, thankfully, never be known to you. Right, so, which probably means that south is, yeah, I'll just put that. So that means north or west. I'm just going to go back now because I still want to find out how to get onwards now. And this seems to be the ticket, I think. So I'm going to go west, 393. You step up to the door in the west wall and tug at the handle. The door will not budge. You grunt in anger, take a step back and prepare to smash the door. But the door is stronger than you thought. You nurse your sore shoulder for a few moments, lose 1 stamina point. I don't. And then return to the center of the room. Would you try one of the other doors, or if you have not already done so, investigate the room? So that means that west leads back to 405 or 104. Okay, there's still one more option, by the way. Just wondering if yeah, no, it can't be that. Has to be north. It's the only way left, really. And that's the general direction I'm going in anyway, isn't it? So 300. So let's go north. The door opens into a narrow passageway heading north, and glowstones flick on to light your way. Ah, these glowstones, they're trying to lead me somewhere, aren't they? When there are glowstones, it means I'm on the right path. Or the wrong path. Or wherever somebody's trying to lead me, actually. Aha. I think the glowstones are a good indication I'm on the right track. Unlike the other passageways you have been traveling along, this one has a cobbled floor. The cobblestones feel smooth and pleasant for your great feet to walk on, but you cannot ignore the feeling of apprehension, since the stones must have been laid by an organized and intelligent creature. You follow the passage for a short while until suddenly a loud clang sounds behind you and stops you dead in your tracks. You wheel around to find that the heavy portcullis has dropped behind you and sealed off the passage. So that's happened twice now. It also indicates to me that something is controlling this and letting you pass that. Dropping the portcullis, I'm being sort of corralled into a smaller and smaller area. You step back to test it, but the bars are much too strong for you to smash or even bend. You have no choice. You turn around and continue north up the corridor. A little further ahead, you reach a crossroads. The glowstones light up 3 ways onwards, but you cannot see very far down the passages. Will you continue northwards, try the passage to the east or the one to the west? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So we have 4, 4, 3 north, 50 east, or 213 west. Now I'm probably supposed to go north, but let's try east first, just to have a little gander. The passage continues east and you pass under 2 carved archways before you finally find yourself in a small circular room. Hang on. Hang on. This is the same 3 options that I had over here. Oh. Huh. So, this leads to... Okay, so that means now I am stuck, and there must be another solution that I have not found yet. So, okay, so there must be an error then somewhere that I've... Unless... No, that can't be it, can it? Okay, so now I'm actually stuck. Now I just have to figure out where the error is, really, that I can so I can move onwards. So if you just give me a little moment, I'll see if I can... Okay, I'll just give me a moment and I'll see if I can find something. Right, I am back. So I've done some more research now, and it turns out that the error where you're supposed to be able to look for a secret passageway is to be found in the same area where I thought I knew where the passage was going to be, but I suppose if I backtrack to 365, we sort of reached that area, so 365. Now, the door opens into a straight passage leading east, which you follow until you reach a dead end. You growl in frustration, and as if your voice had acted as some kind of trigger, you hear a click and a sliding sound. Part of the rock face slides aside and reveals another passage running north and south. Step through the secret doorway cautiously, wary of a trap. But when you are through, the door grinds shut again. But at the same time, there is another sound which seems to be coming from above you. Just in time, you look up to see a heavy portcullis dropping from the roof towards you. You fling yourself forward, not an instant too soon. A heavy clang sounds behind you as the portcullis hits the ground. You escaped death by inches. Since you hurled yourself north, the way to the south is now sealed off by the portcullis, and you pick yourself up and set off north. Soon you reach a crossroads where you may turn east or west. So if I go west, 213. You reach a dead end. The light is dim and it is difficult to see, so you grope around for a possible way onwards. There is none to be found. You turn round and return to the crossroads. But this is where you're supposed to know, because this is the one that was corrected in Wizard. In the Wizard edition, it probably said you cannot see a thing, or no, it probably would have to see you find yourself at a dead end, because this is where you're supposed to add 20. So this is an error actually. There's no way you can justify this really as being deliberate. So I thought the other one was the error that they were talking about, but that was, of course, that is all correct and fine. This is the one that should have been corrected, and this is where you're supposed to use the amulet and add 20. So, and it says, while you are groping around the end of the passageway, you suddenly notice a slight humming coming from your pendant. So this is where we're going. So now I'm going to make a note on my map here. We're going to do some dots and go to 233, and that's a dotted paragraph, meaning that it's not referenced in the actual text. While you are groping around the end of the passageway, you suddenly notice a slight humming coming from your pendant. It is vibrating, and as you move towards one particular spot, the vibration becomes stronger. Grasp the talisman and watch as the blue stone begins to glow. Finally, a beam of light shoots from the pendant and lights up an area of rocky wall. You feel around the area and your hand comes to rest on a small hidden catch. When you flick the catch, the dead end before you comes to life. Smoke hisses from the crevices around the wall, forcing you to step away from it. When the smoke clears, a gap has appeared in the rock face. An eerie green light lights up a narrow passage beyond. Will you step through and explore the secret passage? If so, turn to 369, or would you rather return to the crossroads and take either the way to the north or the way to the east? So you can go back there and there, but you can also go on to 369. So that is the only way onwards. I've established now. I've seen everything else. I've looked everywhere else. That is the only way onwards. You step into the passage and your eyes adjust. Maybe I should leave it there. What do you think? It's I think this episode is long enough actually, and I have some other things I need to do. So I think I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to continue next time. Starting from this point and see where it takes me next. Okay? Sorry about that. I mean, you might have to wait a whole week for this. So yeah, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger now. So now, finally having found the way through and ended the frustration of the dead ends, I'm feeling quite relieved actually, and I can move on from here. So next time, from paragraph 369 is where we will go. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, even though it's a little bit fragmented today because of the nature of this book now and also the nature of this error. If this error hadn't been there, I would have known about this already the previous time I played and I got to this dead end area actually. So I think it's quite fair that I'm sort of doing it this way now. Because I don't want the book itself to detract from my enjoyment of it, as I want it to be as it intended really. So and of course yeah, right. I think all that remains for me to say is thanks for watching if you watched all the way through, and I hope you enjoyed it too, and I will see you next time. Goodbye for now. Bye bye.